On my birthday, there was a box from my parents by the door. I put it on the table. My husband looked at it and said, "Don't open it. Can't you see? My name is Charlotte." That day I woke up earlier than usual. It was quiet, just the clanging of the clock in the living room and the faint hum of the refrigerator. A birthday, not a holiday, more of a calendar marker. I walked out into the hallway and immediately saw the box by the door. Medium-sized, tied with a shiny ribbon. No signature on the box, no card. Just the courier's handwriting on a piece of paper. For Charlotte. I brought it into the kitchen and set it on the table. My husband came in next. He looked at the box and immediately said, "Don't open it. Don't you see it?" His tone was hard, almost harsh. Usually he spoke calmly without pressure. But here he sounded alarmed. I asked, "What is it?" It was a gift. He just shook his head. I put the box on the edge of the table and started the coffee. I reminded myself not to be surprised. I didn't expect warm greetings from my parents. Their style was to send something and then remind me, "You should be grateful." I knew this from experience. But why my husband reacted so harshly, I didn't understand. In the afternoon, the phone beeped. In the family chat room, the mother wrote, "Did you like it?" No emoticons, no words of congratulations. My brother added, "At least post a picture, we tried." My sister sent a picture of fireworks and the phrase, "You're always silent. Don't be so ungrateful." I looked at the screen and thought, it's not my day they're interested in, it's their show-off. I wrote one thing, "Thank you." I stopped there. You could have been more specific. We tried for you. You're ignoring us. In the evening, my mother called. Her voice as stern as when she was a child. "Charlotte, you're not happy. We've put in the effort." I saw the box. I replied, "It's not enough. You have to show that you're pleased. You realize the family's waiting." The phrase "you have to" sounded like a sentence. I didn't say anything. It sounded too familiar. Every time I heard it, it was the same thing. Duty, guilt, obligation. Not love. An hour later, the neighbor boy came in. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter from his mother. "You could have been a normal daughter. You're embarrassing us." No signature. No happy birthday. I put the letter next to the box. My husband walked by and said quietly, "You don't have to." Those 3 words sounded louder than all the congratulations. I realized for the first time, the birthday party was once again a stage for other people's demands. And I am once again standing in the center, not because it is my day, but because I am the object of control. The box remained closed. I sat in the kitchen, looking at it and thinking, it's strange, but for the first time in years, I felt the peace of mind of having done nothing. I hadn't opened it. I hadn't followed the script. It was a small but precise action. During the night, I woke up to the vibration of my phone. The family chat had come to life again. The mother texted, "Do you think we're stupid? You're ignoring on purpose." The brother added, "We could have gotten nothing at all." The sister put in her own, "We feel hurt, you're doing everything out of spite." I looked at these lines and felt tired. Sarcasm itself arose in my head. Funny, they sent a box and now they demand a show. It's not a gift. It's a test of submission. I didn't answer it. The phone flashed, but I left it. I lay in the dark and realized, they don't want joy, they want a report. They want proof that their power is working. I must post pictures, say words, show emotion. Only then will they be satisfied. And exactly until the next time it happens again. In the morning, I walked into the kitchen and saw my husband. He was silent, drinking coffee. The box was still in the same place. He looked at it and then at me. "Have you decided?" he asked. "Not yet," I answered. "Then leave it." Plain and simple. His calmness seemed like encouragement. Not loud but real. It was the first time I felt that someone around me saw me, not the box. In the afternoon, a call from my sister. Her voice is strained, with a faint softness. "Charlotte, open the door. We're all waiting." "Waiting for what?" I asked. "Your reaction. It's important that you appreciate it." "Have you decided how I should react?" Pause. Then a laugh. "You're always so harsh." "I mean, we were trying." "Is it hard to smile?" I answered briefly. "Difficult." She hung up. I sat calmly, even without irritation. The situation had become transparent. They don't see me. They see their picture. All I have to do is play the role of grateful daughter and sister. In the evening, my mother sent another message. If you don't show me tomorrow that you opened it, you may not call again. The brother put a like. The sister put a laughing emoticon. Their agreement seemed like a judgment. The family had decided to mete out my punishment. I stared at the screen and thought, strange, but it didn't scare me anymore. It felt like I was hearing an old record. The same tune, duty, guilt, accusations. I knew it by heart. I placed the phone on the table with the screen facing down. For the first time in years, I felt no fear. Only fatigue and cold clarity. The night passed again in a half-sleep. I dreamed strange scenes. As if I were standing in front of my family and holding the box as proof of my guilt. I woke up with a heavy feeling and went to the kitchen. The box was still standing there. I noticed that the ribbon had shifted a little. Probably when I moved it. Even that looked like a symbol. They tied it and now I had to untie it on their signal. In the afternoon, my brother called. His voice was firm, as if he were speaking to a subordinate. Charlotte, don't be stubborn. Everyone is waiting. I don't have to, I said. You do. He even raised his voice. What your parents do for you, you spit in their faces. We're ashamed of you. I didn't answer. I just hung up. He immediately wrote in chat. She ruined everything. The mother replied, I'm in tears. The sister added, you're a monster. They competed to see who could accuse the loudest. I sat in the kitchen and watched this flow. It was strangely calm inside. I suddenly saw how their whole system was held together by one word. Obligated. Every time I was cornered by that word. I paid, I helped, I kept quiet. Also, I wouldn't be ungrateful. And now it's the same thing, only in the form of a box with a ribbon. Tonight my husband came up to me and said, you don't have to answer. Just leave it. I nodded. The words were simple, but there was more support in them than in all my family's congratulations over the years. I turned the phone off. The box and envelope with the letter were left on the table. I looked at them and thought. Oddly, it was this silence that had been my greatest gift over the years. I didn't open the box. Didn't say thank you. I didn't play their game. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. What happened next changed everything. Subscribe and stay, you don't want to miss how it unfolded. The morning began with a resounding silence. I woke up early and immediately looked at the table. The box was still there. An unsolicited symbol forced upon me by my parents. I didn't even touch it. The ribbon was shiny but looked like rope. The phone came to life again. Messages came one after another. Mother, you've made us a laughingstock. Brother, you have a duty to respect your parents. Sister, I would apologize if I were you. They wrote in different styles, but the message was the same. Pressure. Manipulation. Threat of losing family. I sat in silence. In the past, I would have made excuses. Today I didn't. I just stared at the screen and felt the emptiness inside turn to coldness. At noon, my mother called again. A voice with a note of theatrical sorrow. You're killing me with your indifference. We don't have a daughter anymore. You have me, I said calmly. But I am not your property. There was a scream in response. I didn't listen, I just disconnected the call. My husband came into the kitchen and looked at me. Is everything still the same? Yes, I replied. Then hold the line. His words sounded like an order, but it was an order I was willing to accept. In the evening they came in person. First my mother, then my brother and sister. Without warning, they entered the house as if it were theirs. Mother stood right in front of me. We're not leaving until you open up. The brother sat down in the chair and said, you have to do it. It's all paid for already. You're just ruining the moment. Sister stood next to me and whispered, say thank you. We're family. I looked at them and felt a strange calmness. Their voices sounded like a backdrop, like an old play I'd seen dozens of times. Did you come for the box? I asked. For the family. The mother shouted. You have to show respect. And if I don't? I looked her straight in the eye. Silence for a second. Then another shout, accusations, the usual words about ingratitude. I sat still. Their noise was loud, but I became quiet inside. They left late in the evening, throwing in last words. You're a traitor. You shame us. You'll be alone. The door closed. There was silence in the house. I felt it as freedom for the first time. I sat down in the kitchen across from the box. It remained untouched. I knew this was my choice. Not to open it. Not to follow the script. Not to validate their power. The next day, the pressure intensified. I received a letter in the mail. Inside was a long text from my mother, written in her heavy handwriting. You have humiliated us. You embarrassed the family. We pulled you through so many years and now you turn your back. Remember who paid for your books. Remember who helped with your studies. You owe it to yourself to show gratitude. I sat with that letter in my hands and could almost hear her voice. The same words like a record. Always remember. Never. We're proud of you. Never. We're happy for you. Just reminders of duty. I folded the letter back into the envelope and placed it on the box. A stack of symbols of their power grew right on my desk. I looked at it and thought, none of this is about me. This is about them. They want control, not connection. In the afternoon, I went outside. The air was cold but fresh. I walked to the store and thought how easily they found a way to turn even my birthday into an arena for accusations. People on the street were smiling. Some were rushing about their business. I caught myself thinking, they all had families of their own. I wonder how many of the same people are walking around right now with the heavy weight of other people's expectations? When I got home, my husband was sitting in the living room. He was watching TV, but the sound was off. He looked up. Did you call again? They sent a letter, I replied. It's up to you to decide what to do with it. I sat down next to him and for the first time I said out loud what was running through my head. They don't want me. They want a role. For me to always agree. My husband nodded silently. That was enough. In the evening the calls came again. This time it was my brother. His voice was irritated. Do you realize this is all silly? We can't tell people that you haven't even opened the gift. Everyone will think there's something wrong with you. You're setting us up. Maybe I'm not the problem, I said. Of course it's you. You always ruin everything. We were trying to have a party and you turn it into a drama. I listened to him and thought, that's weird. They're blaming me for the drama when they're the ones creating it. You're having a party without me, I said. You're having a party without me, I said. You're a sick person, my brother threw and disconnected. The phone was still in my hand. I looked at the black screen and suddenly smiled, bitterly but calmly. The irony was that I didn't do anything. I just stayed silent. But that silence was more frightening to them than any words. On the third day, the situation became even more absurd. My mother texted my husband. I saw his phone on the table. You have an obligation to influence her. You're her husband, you have to support us. I picked up the phone and showed it to him. He only grinned and said, now they think I'm their ally. I felt irritated, but not by my husband, by them. They are so used to being used that they haven't even noticed. I am a grown woman. To them, I am a figure that can be rearranged. Today my husband must control me, tomorrow my brother, then they themselves. It's all for one purpose, to keep me comfortable. I didn't answer the letter. I just deleted it. My husband didn't say anything. We both knew that silence was the best answer. A couple of hours later, the neighbor came over. She looked awkward. She was holding a bag. Your mother left this with me. She said to give it to you. I took the package. Inside was another box smaller. And a note. You don't understand. It's all for you. I sat down at the table and looked at the two boxes next to me. One big, one small. It was already like a farce. I even laughed. The laugh was dry, almost sarcastic. Two boxes. Two symbols of being backed into a corner. In the evening the call came again. All together now, a loud conference. Mother's crying. You're killing us. We tried and you turned your back. Brother raises his voice. You're dishonoring the family. We can't go on like this. Sister adds. You'll be alone. No one will want you. I listened to them and kept silent. At some point they started to argue among themselves. Who did more, who spent more? Who suffered more from my betrayal? I sat there and thought, This is the real face of their concern. It's not about me. It's about them. I disconnected first. Just pressed the button and left them screaming into the void. The phone went silent. The room filled with silence. I looked at the boxes and I felt no more fear inside me. Only fatigue remained. And that tiredness was cleaner than their noise. Before I went to bed, I told my husband, "I don't believe them anymore." "It was bound to happen sooner or later," he replied. I went to bed with this feeling. There was no joy. But it was clear. All that had kept me in their hands was the word obligated. And now it had lost its power. On the fourth day, I woke up and immediately looked at the boxes. They stood on the table like two mute witnesses. I poured myself a cup of coffee and thought, funny how things can turn into weapons. It's just cardboard and paper and ribbons. But in their hands it became a tool of control. At lunchtime, my mother sent another letter. This time there was a picture in the envelope. A family dinner without me. All smiles, glasses raised. On the back was a short caption. "This is what a real family looks like." I held the photo in my hands and felt the sarcasm. They don't even hide the fact that they're trying to displace me. It's not a hint, it's a direct message. We're better off without you. But then why the boxes, the letters, the phone calls? The answer was obvious. They don't want me. They wanted a target for pressure. I put the picture next to the boxes. I now had a whole collection of their concern on my desk. Letters, boxes, photos. And it all said one thing. You have to. I looked at my husband. All he said was, "You don't have to answer." I nodded. And for the first time in years it was quiet inside. Really quiet. This is the climax. Everything you've been waiting for is right here. Subscribe now to see the hero put everyone in their place. On the fifth day they came back again. This time the whole family stood at my door. My mother was knocking loudly, my brother was holding a bag. My sister was yelling my name. I opened the door and saw their faces. Tired, angry, but with a kind of feigned determination. They walked into the house as if they had the right to do so. "Charlotte, this is too much." Her mother spoke like a judge. "You're playing with our feelings. You have an obligation to open up," the brother added. "You're not only humiliating yourself, you're humiliating us." The sister grinned and said with venom, "You always ruin everything. Even your birthday." I stood by the table. 2 boxes and letters lay in front of me. I looked at them and then at my relatives. It was empty inside, but it was a quiet emptiness. A silence they couldn't understand. "Do you want a show?" I asked. "Do you want me to play the grateful daughter again?" "We want you to respect us," screamed the mother. "Respect can't be demanded," I replied. They started shouting all together. The words betrayal, shame, disgrace flew one after another. I looked at their faces and realized that it had all been part of the same play for a long time. What they wanted was not a gift but a stage. Not me, but the role they had imposed on me. I took the boxes and carried them to the door. I put them on the doorstep. I went back inside and closed the door in front of them. No explanation, no apology. The silence was final. They knocked, rang, shouted outside the door for a long time. I sat in the kitchen and listened to their noise like a distant echo. My husband came over, poured me some tea and said, "That's it." That everything became a point. I realized they had no more power over me. Neither the boxes, nor the letters, nor the pictures meant anything anymore. A few days later I received another letter. There were no threats or reproaches inside. Just one sentence. "You'll regret it." I read it and threw it away. I didn't even flinch. My life gradually became quieter. The phone was silent. No one came. There were no boxes, no letters, no pictures. It was just me, my husband, and silence. It was strange but honest. I sat at the window and looked out at the street. People were rushing about their business, laughing, carrying packages. Everyone has their own life. I have one now. My own. The next day the doorbell rang again. I opened it and saw my brother alone. He had another box in his hands, even bigger than before. He put it right at my feet and said, "This is the last one. If you don't accept it, consider your family gone." I looked at him in silence. He was waiting for a reaction, waiting for a word. But I didn't say anything. I closed the door. The box stayed outside. An hour later it was gone. He must have taken it back. The phone came back on. The mother wrote a long message. You've killed everything in us. We can't take your cold heart anymore. You have to understand. We did everything for you. You owe it to us to come back. At the end was a heart-shaped smiley face. That symbol looked like a taunt. I sat there and thought, it's strange, but their words don't hurt anymore. They seem empty. I used to fear every rebuke. Now I saw them only as noise. My husband noticed my silence and said, they will try again. But it doesn't matter anymore. I nodded. He was right. On the third day, I received an email. There was a scan of a bank statement attached. My mother wrote, we know how much money you have. You could share. You know family is the most important thing. Their candor had become almost comical. They no longer even pretended it was about love or caring. It all came down to control and resources. I didn't respond. I opened my account and blocked shared access to the old cards I'd once given them. It was a simple action, a few clicks. But it was the one that finally separated the past and the present. In the evening, I heard footsteps at the door again. This time it was my sister coming in. She didn't bring the box, just stood on the threshold and spoke quickly, confusedly. You're doing everything wrong. Mom is sick from your indifference. Brother is furious. You're breaking us. You should be softer. You should realize that without family, a man is nothing. I listened and was silent. She tried to find the words, accusing and pleading. At the end, her voice broke. Say something. I answered. No. That was it. She turned around and walked away. I closed the door and stayed in silence. I sat down at the table where the boxes used to be. Now the place was empty. But there was more life in that emptiness than in all their gifts. A day later, a letter arrived from my mother. Inside was only one leaf. You are no longer our daughter. There was no signature. No date, no salutation. Just a dry statement. I folded it in half and threw it away. In the evening my husband said, now they will be silent. Good, I replied. Indeed. The phone went silent. The messages disappeared. No one called. The house was quiet. I began to get used to this silence. It seemed heavy at first, but soon I realized it was freedom. I began to notice simple things. Mornings without phone calls. An evening without recriminations. A kitchen without boxes. Everything seemed new, like I was living in my own home for the first time. Not in a family-controlled house. A week later, the last letter came. It was the shortest. We'll wait. You'll come back. You have no one but us. I read those words and smiled. The smile was dry without joy. I knew. This is what they were waiting for. That I would believe again. That I would obey again. But it wouldn't happen. I folded the letter and burned it in the fireplace. The paper quickly turned to ash. I looked at the fire and felt calm. Not triumph, not revenge. Just an end. My husband stood beside me. He said, that's it. It's definitely over now. I nodded. Life became smooth. I started spending more time outside. Walking, talking to neighbors, drinking coffee at cafes. Ordinary things that used to be background now became the center. Without other people's pressure, they looked different. Cleaner. I found old books again that I'd put aside long ago. Read them in the evenings. Listen to the music I'd loved in my youth. I even started writing notes, short lines about each day. No pathos. Just capturing the silence. Sometimes I caught myself waiting for a call. But it never came. And that was the best confirmation. I was no longer part of their game. They stayed out there, in their circle of accusations and showmanship. And I was here. In my life. One day I saw my mother in the street. She was walking next to my sister. They saw me but pretended not to recognize me. I walked by without stopping. Neither of them said a word. That silence was louder than all their reproaches. I came home and realized their power was over. Not because they'd changed. Because I had stopped playing. I cut their rules out of my life. From that day on, things got really quiet. Mornings started with my coffee, not their messages. In the evening, my husband and I would sit on the veranda and talk about little things. It was a new quality of life, simple and honest. I no longer waited for the letters, the calls, the boxes. I knew. Even if they showed up again, they were already empty to me. I didn't have to anymore. The finale was quieter than I could have imagined. There was no stage, no audience. Only the door I closed, and the silence I kept.